Support this podcast via our Patreon and get more writerly goodness. Visit patreon.com/nanocast to join up.
Welcome to NaNoWriMo Every Month. My name is J. Daniel Sawyer. I'm the author of some 20 books, 34 short stories, and numerous articles and other things, and I am your guide on this journey to use NaNoWriMo to level up to professional output levels. Welcome to The Questions, Episode 50. Today, JR asks, how do you organize your finances with regards to U.S. tax law? Do you incorporate your writing name? If so, can my equipment research be deducted from taxes? I've thought about incorporating my name to simplify taxes. Thoughts? Yeah, I've got a few of them. The first one is that you don't need to be incorporated in order to take business deductions on your taxes. All you need to do is have a business. The procedure for having a business varies from state to state and sometimes from county to county, but it will frequently involve having a business license and filing a fictitious name statement or something like that. As a writer doing business by selling things, you are a sole proprietorship under the law. A sole proprietorship is a business. It can show a profit and loss. You can take the losses, i.e. expenses, on your taxes in a variety of different ways depending on what's most advantageous for your situation. What is tax deductible will vary depending on the kind of stuff you write, what your business plan is, all that sort of stuff. But as someone in the entertainment industry who works in the creative fields, the things you can deduct will be vast because a lot of stuff qualifies as research. And of course, your equipment and actual hard expenses are tax deductible too. The fine details of this you can find in Nolo Press's Small Business Taxes book, and by talking to a tax professional, which is what you should do when you prepare your taxes, because your situation will be highly individual, and no advice I give on this podcast, and I'm not giving advice because I'm not a tax professional or a lawyer, I'm just spinning scenarios. Nothing I say on this podcast with regards to the law or whatnot should you take as gospel, because I am not a lawyer. And if you take my advice, even when I've told you I'm not a lawyer, you can't sue me for malpractice. So, double check on important stuff like that. That's very important. Now, when it comes to incorporation, there aren't a lot of advantages to incorporating when you're below a certain size, and it depends on your business plan. Basically, a corporation is a separate legal entity. It's a separate person, and that person is the person that gets all the money, and then they have to pay you. If you commingle your funds between a corporation and your personal finances, you can get in serious trouble with the IRS, with compliance boards in your state, with the Department of Commerce, all sorts of stuff like that. If you're going to incorporate, you have to be utterly scrupulous about compliance, or you can get in real trouble. A few reasons to incorporate. One, if you're a fiduciary for anybody. If you co-author with someone and you're paying them royalties and publishing the stuff that you co-authored, it's a good idea to have a corporation handling that, because that removes the opportunity for you to have a financial crisis and reach for the money that's available in your personal bank account that's not yours. It's a good way to establish a firewall and institute discipline against some of the most common and accidental forms of fraud that happen between business partners. Another reason to incorporate is if you're building a publisher with its own market presence and name in order to be able to get access to trade channels or other places that don't do business with sole proprietors and only do business with corporations. There aren't a lot of those, but the ones that there are significant and can be useful to you, particularly when you've got upwards of 40 or 50 titles on the market. When it comes to protecting yourself from liability, contrary to everything that you read on the internet, having a corporation will not help you. Not even an LLC. And by the way, an LLC, despite the fact that its name says Limited Liability Company, or there's a few states that have a different name, but it's basically the same form, will not limit your liability in any way that you can get in trouble as a writer. And those ways are being sued for libel, being sued for copyright infringement, being sued for trademark infringement, or if you use the corporation to defraud someone, being sued or prosecuted for fraud and whatnot. And if the office for your corporation is in your house, it will not protect you from being sued if someone falls in your office. The reason is that when someone sues a corporation, they also sue the officers and directors of the corporation, or the LLC. While there is something called the corporate veil, which prevents shareholders from being sued for the actions of officers and board members, it does not prevent officers and board members from being sued for the actions of officers and board members. And if you are the sole stockholder or a major stockholder in your own corporation, in which you are also an officer or a board member, you are going to get named on any lawsuit that's thrown your way, regardless of what the nature of the suit is. You cannot protect yourself from consequences for doing shady things by having a corporate structure. It's a false sense of security. Now, with regards to an LLC versus an S Corp versus a C Corp, there's a lot of crap going around online about how LLCs are easier to deal with, easier to administer, and should be preferable to anyone who is of a small scale doing this, and it's perfect for writers. That's also bullshit. An LLC is designed to serve a number of partners who are in a professional partnership, like a law firm or a dentist office or a service firm of some kind. It doesn't offer any particular advantages to a publisher. And it has far less flexibility, and it lacks in nimbleness what S Corps and C Corps do. The difference between an S Corp and a C Corp is how it's taxed. It's otherwise the same thing. My accountant tells me that S Corps are easier to deal with if you're making under about $50,000 to $70,000 a year, and C Corps are easier to deal with if you're making over $70,000 to $100,000 a year, in terms of the compliance and the taxes and all that sort of stuff. There are a number of reasons to get a corporation. I've got a couple. I will probably have more as time goes on. Most authors don't need them, and when you get to the point where you do, or if you think you do, here's what you need to do. First thing you need to do is you need to get a basic education on what's going on. I recommend, for a basic familiarity, get a book by Mike Piper called LLC versus S Corp versus C Corp explained in 100 pages or less. It gives you a thorough grounding in everything you need to know about what the different structures are and why they exist and what they're for. Once you do that, you need to sit down and figure out how you're going to organize your business, and then pick the structure that works best for your plans. If you don't have any firm plans, but you think, for example, that Hollywood's going to come knocking, or you've got a movie option on the table and you need a corporation in order to help manage your tax situation, talk to a tax accountant, preferably a tax attorney, to see which situation will be best for you. After that, extend your education. Nolo Press has got a number of good books on corporate structure, and LegalZoom has a lot of good resources on corporate structure. LegalZoom is a wonderful, cheap way to incorporate and manage your corporation and stay in compliance. I would highly recommend them. I found them very, very easy to work with, and it's a lot cheaper than hiring a lawyer to set the whole thing up. Be sure to familiarize yourself with the laws in your state regarding foreign corporations. There's a lot of places online that sell Nevada corporations and Delaware corporations and New Mexico corporations as being the best corporations because the corporate tax burden in those states is a lot lower. The corporate tax burden in those states is, in fact, a lot lower, but a lot of states will require you to register in your home state as a foreign corporation if you have a nexus of business in that state. And an employee or a post office box or an address or an office all counts as a nexus of business. So if you are the only person working for your company and you live in your home state, you may not get any benefit out of incorporating out of state, and in fact you may be causing yourself a lot of trouble and expense. The other thing is that Delaware, New Mexico, and Nevada have corporate tax breaks and other situations and incentives that are highly advantageous for large businesses of certain sorts and don't really make any difference whatsoever for writers and publishing houses. These are all the sorts of things you want to get familiar with if you're deciding whether or not to incorporate and how. But being able to take tax deductions for your business expenses, that's something you can do with a sole proprietorship, which is very easy to set up. Just look up the rules online for how to set up a sole proprietorship in your state and county, and you'll be able to do it in a weekend. It's very, very simple. Other tips: keep your receipts for anything deductible, document your mileage, keep your business and your personal finances as separate as you can manage, because it makes going back and doing accounting at the end of the year a hell of a lot simpler, and it also makes it easier to track how different promotions and business strategies and experiments you do are actually affecting your income. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here and get on to maybe a craft-based question next time, I think. Yeah, next one's a craft-based question. So we'll be getting back to the creativity stuff, and I'll see you tomorrow. NaNoWriMo Every Month is written and presented by J. Daniel Sawyer and produced by Artistic Whispers Productions. Visit our website at NaNoWriMoEveryMonth.com and leave a tip in the tip jar or join the Patreon to support this podcast. NaNoWriMo Every Month is copyright 2016 by J. Daniel Sawyer and Artistic Whispers Productions and is released under a Creative Commons Non-Commercial Attribution No Derivatives license.